Before we begin the story, let us know where you're watching from by leaving a comment below. If you enjoy this video, don't forget to like and subscribe. Have a wonderful day. Enjoy the story. The crystal chandeliers of the Carver Grand Ballroom cast a deceptive glow over what should have been the happiest night of Tara Carver's life. Instead, she stood frozen in the doorway of her father's study, her champagne glass slipping from her fingers and shattering on the marble floor. The sound went unnoticed by the entwined couple on the antique desk, her fiancé Miles and her cousin Veronica, both too consumed with each other to register her presence. "How long?" Tara's voice emerged as barely a whisper, but it was enough to make them spring apart, guilt written across their flushed faces. Miles adjusted his crooked tie, his practiced charm quickly sliding back into place. "Tara, darling, this isn't what it looks like." But it was exactly what it looked like. The culmination of her deepest fears that no one would ever want her for herself, rather than the billion-dollar media empire she was set to inherit. The diamond ring on her finger suddenly felt like a shackle, the weight of it threatening to drag her under. Veronica, at least, had the decency to look ashamed, gathering her designer gown around her. "Tara, please, we can explain." "Save it." Tara's voice found its strength, surprising even herself. "The engagement is off." She turned and fled through the labyrinthine corridors of the mansion where she'd grown up, yet never felt at home. Behind her, she could hear Miles calling her name, his voice growing more desperate as the distance between them increased. 400 guests waited in the ballroom, champagne in hand, for the formal announcement of their engagement, an announcement that would never come. The humid summer air hit her like a wall as she burst through the service entrance. The first fat raindrops of an approaching storm splattered against her skin. Perfect. The weather matched her mood. Without a backward glance, she kicked off her 5-inch Louboutins and ran barefoot across the manicured lawns, her couture gown dragging in the mud. By the time she reached the estate's perimeter, the skies had opened completely. Rain pounded against her, plastering her gown to her body and washing away the careful makeup that had taken her stylist 3 hours to apply. Lightning illuminated the night in harsh flashes, thunder rumbling its displeasure. Tara welcomed the storm's fury, finding kinship in its wild release. She hadn't planned where to go, only knew she needed to escape. Her phone lay abandoned on a table inside, along with her clutch containing her ID and credit cards. Freedom, even temporary, demanded its price. Through sheets of rain, Tara spotted the familiar silhouette of what she believed was her friend Amelia's family estate. Relief washed over her as she stumbled through ornate gates, left carelessly open. The sprawling mansion loomed ahead, a few windows glowing warmly against the stormy darkness. Disoriented and shivering, she made her way up the grand entrance steps. When her knocking went unanswered, she tried the massive door handle, surprised to find it unlocked. Stepping into the dimly lit foyer, she called out, "Amelia, it's Tara. I'm sorry to barge in, but I didn't know where else to go." Only silence answered her. Wrapping her arms around herself, she ventured deeper into the house, leaving puddles of water in her wake. The interior seemed different from what she remembered of Amelia's home, more masculine, with rich dark woods and a surprising collection of Renaissance art lining the hallway. A warm glow spilled from beneath a door at the end of the corridor. Following it like a beacon, Tara pushed the door open to reveal a magnificent library unlike anything she'd ever seen. Floor-to-ceiling bookshelves covered every wall, interspersed with original artwork that would make museum curators weep. A fire crackled in a massive stone fireplace, casting dancing shadows across leather-bound volumes and illuminating a sitting area with deep armchairs. "Amelia," she called again, her voice smaller now. "I'm afraid you've mistaken your destination," came a deep, resonant voice from the shadows. Tara whirled around, her heart leaping to her throat. From an alcove stepped a man she'd never seen before, tall and powerfully built, with broad shoulders emphasized by a perfectly tailored charcoal dress shirt. His sleeves were rolled up, revealing strong forearms dusted with dark hair. But it was his face that arrested her. Strong, aristocratic features, a firm jaw shadowed with the beginning of stubble, and eyes of such piercing intensity that she felt them like a physical touch, too. "So sorry," she stammered, suddenly acutely aware of her bedraggled appearance. "I thought this was my friend Amelia Montgomery's home. The Montgomery estate is 2 properties over." His expression remained impassive, as those remarkable eyes were. They blue or gray, assessed her. "You're soaking wet and barefoot on my imported Persian rug." Mortification crashed over her. "I'll go immediately. I can't believe She turned to flee, but a wave of dizziness swept over her. The room tilted alarmingly, and she reached for the nearest bookshelf to steady herself. In an instant, he was beside her, one strong arm around her waist. "Sit before you fall," he commanded, guiding her to one of the armchairs by the fire. Warmth of the flames began to penetrate her chilled skin as he stepped back, studying her with an unreadable expression. "You're Tara Carver," he stated, rather than asked. "Your engagement celebration is the talk of the social pages today." Tara's laugh held no humor. "Was. Past tense. There's nothing to celebrate anymore." Something flickered in his eyes. Curiosity, perhaps. "I'm Cole Vance," he offered, moving to a sideboard where crystal decanters gleamed in the firelight. "And while this is certainly unusual, basic human decency requires that I not send you back into a deluge. Wine?" Without waiting for her response, he poured rich red liquid into 2 glasses, handing one to her before taking the opposite chair. The wine was extraordinary, warming her from within as it slid down her throat. "Thank you," she said, meeting his gaze over the rim of her glass. "I promise I don't make a habit of breaking into strangers' homes." "Breaking in suggests the door was locked," he replied, one corner of his mouth lifting slightly. "It wasn't. Still," she persisted, "I apologize for the intrusion. Once the storm passes, I'll call a car and be out of your way." Cole glanced toward the windows, where rain lashed against the glass in horizontal sheets. "The weather report suggests that won't be any time soon. You might as well get comfortable and tell me why the most eligible heiress in New York is fleeing her own engagement party." The direct question, asked without pretense or false sympathy, somehow made it easier to answer truthfully. "I caught my fiancée with my cousin. Apparently, I was a business arrangement, not a romantic choice." Cole's expression darkened. Some men are fools. The simple statement, delivered without platitudes or awkward consolation, loosened something tight in Tara's chest. Her eyes filled with tears she'd refused to shed until now. "Do you have somewhere to go tonight?" he asked, his voice gentler than before. Tara shook her head. "I left everything behind. Phone, ID, money. I just ran." Cole studied her for a long moment, something unreadable passing behind his eyes. Finally, he set his glass down and stood. "I'll have my housekeeper prepare the East guest suite. You can stay until the storm passes and make arrangements in the morning." "You do that for a stranger who dripped all over your Persian rug?" Tara asked, unable to mask her surprise. "Perhaps I recognize something in your decision to flee rather than endure a falsehood," he said, his voice taking on a distant quality. Then, as if catching himself revealing too much, he straightened. "Besides, what kind of man would I be to send a barefoot woman in an evening gown into a thunderstorm?" Their eyes locked across the space between them, and Tara felt a strange current that had nothing to do with the lightning outside. For the first time in hours, warmth began to return to her body, not just from the fire or wine, but from something stirring to life inside her chest, something that felt dangerously like hope. Chapter 2. Shelter in the Storm. The grandfather clock in the corner of Cole Vance's library chimed midnight, its resonant tones filling the comfortable silence that had settled between them. Outside, the storm showed no signs of abating. If anything, it had intensified, wind howling like a living creature around the eaves of the mansion. Tara had changed into clothes provided by Cole's housekeeper, Mrs. Lynn, a silk pajama set and plush robe that hung slightly loose on her frame. Her ruined gown had been whisked away with promises to salvage what could be saved. Now, curled in the armchair with her second glass of wine, she felt oddly at peace, despite the chaos of the evening. "This is extraordinary," she said, gesturing to her glass. "I thought I knew wine, but I've never tasted anything like it." Cole's expression softened slightly. "Chateau Margaux 1787. It's not available at any price. The last bottle at auction went for over $225,000. Tara nearly choked. "And you're sharing it with a bedraggled stranger who interrupted your evening?" "I was saving it for an occasion worth remembering." His eyes held hers with unexpected intensity. "This certainly qualifies as memorable." Heat that had nothing to do with the fire crept up Tara's neck. To distract herself, she glanced at the book he'd set aside when she'd entered. Dante, in the original Italian. "Impressive. You recognize 14th century Italian literature on sight?" Cole raised an eyebrow, reassessing her. "I double majored in art history and comparative literature before my father insisted I focus on business administration." Tara ran her finger along the leather binding. "La Divina Commedia isn't just literature. It's a masterpiece of human understanding. In the middle of the journey of our life, I found myself in a dark wood, for the straight way was lost. You speak Italian. It wasn't a question, but carried a note of genuine surprise. Among other things, Tara shrugged. When you grow up with the expectations I did, you collect accomplishments like trophies, languages, instruments, social gracisol tools in the arsenal of a proper heiress. Cole studied her with new interest. And yet you seem to have genuine passion for Dante. Some things transcend obligation and become love. Tara met his gaze directly. I suspect you understand that distinction. Something flickered in his eyes' recognition, perhaps before he turned toward the impressive art collection adorning the library walls. What do you make of that piece? He asked, nodding toward a small, dark painting hanging between two towering bookshelves. Tara approached it, recognizing immediately the distinctive style. Early Caravaggio, possibly from his Roman period. The chiaroscuro technique is extraordinary. The way light emerges from absolute darkness. She leaned closer. It's not one I've seen in catalogs. Private collection? Very private, Cole replied, coming to stand beside her. You have a good eye. It's genuine, isn't it? Tara whispered, awestruck. Not a reproduction. Yes. The simplicity of his answer took her breath away. The painting was worth millions. Yet he acknowledged it as casually as one might mention owning a nice watch. Your reaction is refreshing, Cole said, watching her closely. Most people in your circle would immediately calculate its monetary value rather than appreciating its artistic merit. Tara turned to face him, suddenly aware of how close they stood. You seem to have preconceived notions about my circle. Should I be making assumptions about billionaire tech innovators as well? A ghost of a smile touched his lips. Touché, Miss Calver. Tara, she corrected. After sharing priceless wine and Caravaggio revelations at midnight, I think formality is somewhat redundant. Tara, he conceded, her name sounding different in his deep voice. A crack of thunder, so loud it seemed directly overhead, made Tara jump, instinctively moving closer to Cole. His hands steadied her arm, the contact sending electricity through her skin. For a breathless moment, they stood frozen, close enough that she could detect the subtle scent of his cologne sandalwood, and something uniquely his own. He released her and stepped back. The storm won't let up until morning. I should show you to your room. Tara followed him through dimly lit corridors, noting how the house seemed to reflect its owner, elegant yet masculine, with understated luxury in every detail. Unlike the ostentatious display of wealth she'd grown up with, Cole's home spoke of refined taste and appreciation for craftsmanship. How did you come to live here? She asked, as they ascended a sweeping staircase. This neighborhood has been dominated by old money families for generations. I bought it from a banking dynasty facing financial ruin, Cole replied, his tone neutral. They'd maintained appearances while mortgaging themselves into oblivion. Appearances can be deceiving, Tara murmured. Thinking of her own family's carefully curated public image, Cole glanced back at her, something unreadable in his expression. Indeed, he stopped at a set of double doors, opening them to reveal a stunning guest suite, decorated in soothing shades of blue and silver. A fire had been lit in the fireplace, casting a warm glow over the elegant furnishings. Mrs. Lynn has left everything you might need, Cole said, remaining in the doorway. The bathroom is through there, with toiletries and more clothing options. Thank you, Tara said, suddenly shy. For everything, most people wouldn't have been so kind to an intruder. Most intruders aren't quite so interesting, Cole replied, his voice dropping to a lower register that made her pulse quicken. Their eyes met, and Tara felt that strange current between them intensify. Cole broke the connection first, his professional mask sliding back into place. Good night, Tara. We'll sort everything out in the morning. After he left, Tara explored the luxurious bathroom, finding it stocked with high-end products and fluffy towels. A hot shower washed away the physical remnants of her disastrous evening, but her mind remained full of contradictions. The humiliation of Miles's betrayal juxtaposed against the unexpected connection she'd felt with Cole Vance. Later, wrapped in the silken sheets of the bed, sleep eluded her. She found herself thinking not of the fiancé she'd lost, but of the stranger who'd offered her shelter. Cole was nothing like the polished, ambitious men her father had always pushed her toward. There was something raw about him, a carefully contained intensity that occasionally broke through his composed exterior. Dangerous, her mind whispered. He's dangerous to everything you thought you knew. Downstairs in his library, Cole stood at the window, watching the storm rage. The wine in his glass remained untouched as he replayed the evening's unexpected turn of events. Tara Carver was not at all what he'd expected from the society pages. There was depth to her, intelligence, and genuine passion beneath the perfect exterior. His phone buzzed with a message from his VP of Operations. Carver Media acquisition proceeding as planned. Board vote next week. Cole stared at the screen, a heavy weight settling in his chest. Destiny or disaster had led Tara Carver to his door tonight. Either way, when she discovered the full truth about who he was and what he was planning, this fragile connection between them would shatter like her champagne glass on marble. He closed his eyes, hearing again her perfect Italian pronunciation of Dante's words. In the middle of the journey of our life, I found myself in a dark wood, for the straight way was lost. How prophetic those words now seemed for both of them. Chapter 3. Daybreak Revelations. Golden light filtered through the morning mist as Tara woke, momentarily disoriented by unfamiliar surroundings. The events of the previous night flooded back. Miles's betrayal, her desperate flight through the storm, and the enigmatic stranger who had offered her sanctuary. Embarrassment at her vulnerability warmed her cheeks as she slipped from beneath silken sheets. She couldn't continue imposing on Cole Vance's hospitality. No matter how graciously it had been offered, better to slip away quietly, spare them both the morning after awkwardness, and figure out her next steps alone. After dressing in clothes Mrs. Batterton, Lynn had provided designer jeans and a cashmere sweater that fit perfectly. Tara gathered her still-damp evening gown and made her way silently through the corridor. The first pale rays of sunrise guided her toward what she hoped was an exit that wouldn't trigger security or wake the household. A flash of movement through glass doors caught her attention. Pausing, she realized she was looking into a garden pavilion where Cole stood before an easel, his back to her as he painted the sunrise with bold, confident strokes. Shirtless, wearing only loose linen pants, his powerful shoulders and back moved with surprising grace as he worked, muscles shifting beneath sun-bronzed skin. Transfixed, Tara watched as he captured the emerging day with an artist's eye, transforming ordinary dawn into something transcendent. This was not the reserved billionaire from last night, but something altogether more complex. A creator caught in the act of private passion. As if sensing her presence, Cole suddenly stilled, then turned. Their eyes met through the glass, and Tara felt the impact like a physical force. For an unguarded moment, something primal and electric passed between them before recognition replaced instinct in his expression. She stepped back, mortified at being caught staring. "I'm so sorry," she called through the glass. "I was trying to find my way out without disturbing anyone." Cole set down his brush and opened the door connecting the pavilion to the main house. Up close, his physical presence was even more overwhelming. Broad shoulders tapering to a narrow waist, chest lightly dusted with dark hair, eyes that shifted between blue and gray in the morning light. "You're leaving?" he asked, his voice carrying a rougher quality than it had the night before. "I've imposed enough," Tara replied, fighting to keep her eyes on his face rather than his bare torso. "I thought I'd call a car," and she gestured vaguely with the bundled gown. "Fleeing at dawn," Cole observed, studying her with unexpected intensity. "Is that how you normally end uncomfortable situations?" The directness of his question caught her off guard. "Excuse me? Last night, you ran from your engagement rather than confronting the betrayal. This morning, you're slipping away without a word." His tone held no judgment, just precise observation. "I'm curious if that's your standard approach to difficulty." Tara felt heat rise to her face, this time from indignation rather than embarrassment. "You know nothing about me or my standards. I know you quote Dante in original Italian when soaking wet and distressed," he countered, a hint of something softer entering his expression. "That suggests depths most people would never suspect behind the society princess facade." "I'm not a facade," Tara fired back, then paused, struck by the unintended honesty of her response. Cole's mouth curved slightly. "No, I don't believe you are," which is precisely what makes your instinct to run rather than engage so interesting. They regarded each other in tense silence for a moment, before Tara finally asked, "Do you always psychoanalyze guests who try to leave politely?" "Only the ones who catch me painting at dawn," he replied, the almost smile widening fractionally, a private indulgence few ever witness. The acknowledgement of shared vulnerability shifted something between them. Tara felt her defensive posture relaxing slightly. "You're very good," she offered. "The way you captured the light was extraordinary." Surprise flickered across his face before his expression closed slightly. "It's a hobby," he said dismissively. "Nothing serious." "That's a lie," Tara challenged, surprising herself with her boldness. There was mastery in those brushstrokes. "You've studied." A complex emotion crossed his features, discomfort, mingled with something like pleased surprise at being truly seen. On my own, yes. He gestured toward the main house. Would you at least allow me to offer breakfast before you disappear, Mrs. Lynn would consider your escape without nourishment a personal failure. Before Tara could frame a polite refusal, her stomach betrayed her with an audible rumble. Heat flooded her cheeks again. I take that as acceptance, Cole said, the almost smile transforming briefly into something genuine that created a dimple in his right cheek. Give me 5 minutes to clean up, and I'll meet you in the kitchen. True to his word, Cole appeared in the kitchen as Tara was accepting a cup of coffee from Mrs. Lynn. He had showered and changed into casual clothes, dark jeans, and a simple button-down that somehow managed to look both relaxed and impeccable. The east terrace offered a breathtaking view of meticulously landscaped gardens leading down to a small lake that sparkled in the morning sunlight. A table had been set with fine china and silver, fresh flowers, and covered dishes keeping food warm. This is lovely, Tara said, accepting the chair Cole held for her, though entirely too much trouble for an unexpected guest. Mrs. Lynn enjoys having someone to fuss over, he replied. Taking the seat across from her, I'm a rather boring charge. Predictable routines, minimal demands. Somehow I doubt that Cole Vance is ever truly boring, Tara said, using his full name deliberately, testing the boundaries between them. His eyes met hers with that same intensity from the night before. Most people don't use my full name. Do you mind? No, he said after a moment's consideration. Not from you? The simple statement carried a weight that shifted the air between them. To cover the moment, Tara focused on serving herself from the array of breakfast offerings. Perfectly scrambled eggs, fresh berries, artisan bread still warm from the oven. This is wonderful, she said after her first bite. Did Mrs. Lynn prepare all this? Actually, I did, Cole admitted. Mrs. Lynn doesn't arrive until 8 on weekends. I dismissed the staff then. I prefer the solitude. You cook? Tara couldn't keep the surprise from her voice. Among other things, the echo of her words from the previous night, when she'd mentioned speaking Italian, was clearly intentional. Growing up in the foster system teaches you self-sufficiency. Some lessons stick, even when they're no longer necessary. The casual reference to his childhood caught Tara off guard. She'd researched Cole Vance after his company's meteoric rise had made headlines. Every article mentioned he was self-made, but offered no details about his origins. That he would share even this small fragment of his past felt significant. How many homes? She asked quietly. 7, he answered. His tone matter-of-fact rather than seeking sympathy, some better than others. And your parents? Car accident? I was 7. The words were clipped, his expression closing briefly before he visibly chose to continue. Your turn. You mentioned last night that you studied art history before your father redirected you to business. Was that your preference or his? The deliberate change of subject was unmistakable, but Tara allowed it. Mine was photography. Actually, I have a good eye for composition and light, but father insisted art was a hobby, not a career, at least for a Carver heir. And you accepted that? There was genuine curiosity in his question, not judgment. At the time, she admitted. After my mother died when I was 16, pleasing him became important, perhaps too important. So you buried your passion to become what he wanted, Cole observed, studying her with uncomfortable perceptiveness. Tell me, how's that working out for you? The bluntness of the question should have offended her, but instead Tara found herself answering with unexpected honesty. Until I found my fiancé with my cousin on what should have been the happiest night of my life, I'd say the results are decidedly mixed. Cole's laugh, a rich, surprisingly warm sound, startled both of them. Fair enough, he conceded, raising his coffee cup in a toast to her candor, to mixed results and new beginnings. Something about his easy acceptance of her sarcasm, his refusal to offer platitudes or awkward sympathy, loosened a knot inside Tara's chest. She found herself returning his smile, lifting her own cup to complete the toast, to new beginnings. Their peaceful morning was interrupted by Mrs. Lynn, appearing with a tablet in hand, her usually serene expression troubled. Mr. Vance, Miss Carver, I thought you should see this immediately. The screen displayed the New York Times website with a headline that made Tara's stomach drop. Carver heiress flees engagement gala. Mental health crisis or cold feet. Beneath was a photo of her from the previous evening, radiant in her now ruined gown, alongside a candid shot of Miles looking appropriately devastated as he spoke to reporters. The article quoted sources close to the family suggesting she had been struggling with emotional issues for months. They're controlling the narrative, Tara whispered. a familiar coldness settling in her stomach, making me look unstable, so my decision seems less credible. They're protecting their investment, Cole corrected, his voice hardening as he scanned the article. Miles Peterson's family has significant political connections that would benefit your father's media ventures. Your defection threatens that alliance. Tara looked up, startled by his detailed knowledge of her family's business arrangements. How do you know about the Peterson connection? A shadow crossed Cole's face. The business world is small at certain levels. Gideon Carver's strategic marriages, both his own and those he arranges, are well known among his competitors. Is that what I am to you? Intel on a competitor? The question emerged before she could censor it, vulnerability making her voice sharper than intended. Cole set down the tablet, his expression suddenly fierce. If I viewed you as a business asset, Tara, you'd still be asleep in my guest room while I arranged a press conference to showcase my rescue of Gideon Carver's distressed daughter. His voice dropped lower, intense rather than loud. That would be the move if this were about business. Instead, I'm offering you sanctuary away from the cameras and speculation. The unvarnished truth of his statement silenced her momentary suspicion. Your phone and identification are still at your family estate, he continued, his tone shifting to something more practical. Tara nodded. Everything. I quite literally ran with nothing but the clothes on my back, which means they can track your phone's last location, but not your current whereabouts. Cole's mind was clearly working through scenarios. Do you want to go back? The question hung in the air between them, carrying more weight than its simple words suggested. Tara considered what awaited her. Her father's disapproval, Miles's false contrition, the scrutiny of New York society, and the suffocating expectations that had been slowly killing her spirit for years. No, she said, surprised by the certainty in her voice. Not yet. I need time to think, to decide what I want outside of what's expected of me. Something like approval flickered in Cole's eyes. In that case, I have a proposition for you. He set down his coffee cup with deliberate precision. I own a private property on the coast. Secluded, secure, with no staff except a groundskeeper who lives separately on the property. You could stay there, take the time you need without media harassment, until you decide your next move. Tara stared at him, searching for ulterior motives. Why would you do that for a stranger? Because you're not a stranger anymore, Cole replied, holding her gaze with an intensity that made her breath catch. You're a woman at a crossroads I recognize all too well. What crossroads is that? She asked softly. The one where you either surrender to the life others have scripted for you, or find the courage to write your own story. His voice took on a resonance that suggested personal experience. 18 years ago, I faced that exact choice. Continue as the protege of a powerful man who saw me as a tool rather than a person, or risk everything to create something authentic on my own terms. The confession, so unexpected and personal, stripped away the last of Tara's hesitation. In less than a day, this enigmatic man had shown her more genuine understanding than people she'd known her entire life. I accept, she said, her own voice strengthening with each word, on one condition, which is that you'll visit. I'd like to know more about the choice you made 18 years ago, and the man it created. Cole's expression remained unreadable, but something shifted in his eyes, a door opening, or perhaps a wall beginning to crumble. I think that can be arranged, he said, and for the first time since she'd met him, a genuine smile transformed his face, creating a dimple in his right cheek that made him look suddenly disarmingly human. Tara's heart performed a complicated maneuver in her chest, a sensation both terrifying and exhilarating. In the wreckage of what was supposed to be her engagement celebration, something unexpected was taking root, something that felt dangerously like the beginning of her real life. Chapter 4. Coastal Sanctuary. The helicopter descended toward what appeared to be an untouched stretch of coastline, the late afternoon sun turning the ocean to molten gold beneath them. Tara pressed her hand against the window, mesmerized by the dramatic landscape unfolding below. Rugged cliffs rising from churning waters, wild forests stretching inland, and a pristine isolation that seemed to exist outside of time. It's breathtaking, she said, her voice carrying a note of genuine wonder through the headset microphone. Cole, seated beside her, nodded with quiet pride. 500 acres of protected wilderness. The house is built into the cliffside to minimize environmental impact. The helicopter banked slightly, revealing a structure that seemed to emerge organically from the rocky terrain. Glass, stone, and weathered wood, merging seamlessly with the natural environment. Unlike the imposing grandeur of his Manhattan mansion, this home invited rather than intimidated, its lines flowing with the contours of the cliff. You designed it, Tara said, with sudden certainty, recognizing something distinctly his in the balanced proportions and thoughtful integration with nature. Cole turned to her sharply. "How did you know?" "It feels like you," she answered simply, strong but not imposing, complex yet harmonious, with nothing superfluous. Something shifted in his expression, surprise, followed by a fleeting vulnerability that made her heart beat faster. The moment was interrupted by the pilot announcing their landing, and soon they were touching down on a small helipad positioned a discreet distance from the main house. The caretaker, introduced only as Jensen, met them with a vintage Land Rover. His weathered face spoke of decades outdoors, and the quiet efficiency with which he handled their luggage suggested military training. He acknowledged Tara with a respectful nod, but offered no excessive welcomes or questions about her presence. "Everything's prepared as requested, sir," Jensen said as they loaded the last bag. "Pantry and refrigerator stocked. Security system updated. Margaret sent along some of her sourdough bread and that wild blackberry jam you might enjoy. Miss Carver." "Thank you, Jensen. We won't need anything else today." Cole's tone was friendly, but decisive. Jensen nodded and retreated to a smaller residence, partially hidden among pine trees in the distance. "Jensen and Margaret have been with me since I built this place," Cole explained as they drove the winding path to the main house. "They're private people themselves, unlikely to mention your presence to anyone." "You trust them?" Tara observed, watching how the tension that had subtly held Cole's shoulders during their journey had begun to ease the moment they'd landed. "With my life," Cole confirmed. Navigating the vehicle around a curve that revealed a stunning ocean vista, they helped me when I had nothing but ambition and too many bad memories. Their discretion is absolute. The house, up close, was even more remarkable than it had appeared from the air. Nestled into the rocky cliff face, its multiple levels cascaded down toward the ocean, with expansive glass walls capturing the dramatic seascape, while stone elements anchored it to the rugged terrain. Gardens of native plants softened the transition between architecture and wilderness, creating natural privacy screens and windbreaks. "Home sweet temporary home," Cole said, carrying Tara's bags into a soaring great room where floor-to-ceiling windows framed the ocean like living art. A massive fireplace crafted from local stone anchored one wall, while comfortable yet elegant furnishings invited relaxation rather than formality. "This is extraordinary," Tara breathed, moving toward the windows. Below, a series of decks and terraces stepped down the cliff face, culminating in a private cove where waves crashed against dark rocks and a small strip of pristine sand. "The master suite is through there." Cole indicated a hallway to the right. "It has the best view, especially at sunrise. There are 3 guest rooms down the opposite hall if you'd prefer." "Are you staying?" Tara asked, realizing they hadn't clarified this detail in their hasty departure from New York. "Just tonight. To ensure you're settled." Something in his tone had shifted, becoming more formal. "I have business matters requiring my attention in the city tomorrow." Disappointment curled through her chest, surprising in its intensity. "Of course, you've already been more than generous with your time." "Tara," the way he said her name made her turn to face him fully. "I'm not abandoning you here. I'll return in a few days, as we discussed. This place is yours to use as sanctuary, for as long as you need." The sincerity in his eyes eased her irrational fear. "Thank you. I'm not usually so dependent. This situation has me off balance." Understandably so. Cole moved to the large open kitchen, where he began unloading groceries from insulated bags. "Would you like a tour after we put these away, or would you prefer to settle into your room first?" They fell into a surprisingly comfortable domestic rhythm, arranging provisions in the state-of-the-art kitchen while discussing the sustainable features of the house. Cole explained the geothermal heating system, solar arrays, and rainwater collection with the enthusiasm of someone genuinely passionate about the technology, rather than simply showing off expensive toys. Later, as the sun began its descent toward the horizon, they walked the property's winding paths. Cole pointed out his favorite reading spots, a hidden meditation garden, and the trail leading down to the private beach. The easy conversation of the morning continued, punctuated by comfortable silences that felt neither awkward nor empty. "You'll need to show respect for the ocean here," Cole cautioned as they stood on a deck overlooking the cove. "The currents can be treacherous, especially around those rocks to the north." "I'm a strong swimmer," Tara said, watching the hypnotic rhythm of waves breaking against dark stone. "My mother insisted on Olympic-level training, in case I ever needed to escape paparazzi on a yacht." The memory brought a bittersweet smile. "She was the practical one in the family." "Was?" Cole asked gently. "She died when I was 16. pancreatic cancer. Tara kept her eyes on the horizon. It was quick, only 3 months from diagnosis to funeral. My father threw himself into expanding the business afterward. I think work was easier than grief. And you? I became what was expected of me. The admission felt weightier, spoken aloud on this cliff edge, with nothing but truth between her and the endless ocean. The perfect daughter, the flawless heiress, the ideal partner for strategic alliances. She turned to face him. Until last night, when I finally couldn't do it anymore. Cole studied her face with an intensity that might have made her uncomfortable from anyone else. What would you be if you could choose freely, without expectation or obligation? The question hit her like a physical force. No one had ever asked her that before, not her father, not her friends, not Miles. Tears sprang unexpectedly to her eyes. I don't know, she whispered. Isn't that terrible? I'm 28 years old, and I have no idea who I am outside of being Gideon Carver's daughter. Instead of offering platitudes, Cole simply nodded. Then perhaps that's what this time is for. Discovery. The simplicity and understanding in his response loosened something tight in Tara's chest. A single tear escaped, trailing down her cheek. Without thinking, Cole reached out, his thumb gently brushing away the moisture. The contact was brief but electric, sending a current through both of them that momentarily suspended time. His hand lingered near her face, not quite touching, but close enough that she could feel its warmth. I should start dinner, he said, his voice rougher than before. The sunset is spectacular from the western terrace. You might want your camera. As he turned to leave, Tara caught his wrist. What about you, Cole? Did you discover who you really were when you made your choice 18 years ago? He looked down at her hand on his skin, then back to her eyes. I discovered who I wasn't, he said finally. The rest has been a work in progress. The intensity between them had shifted into something deeper than physical attraction, a recognition of shared wounds carefully hidden beneath polished exteriors. For a suspended moment, Tara thought he might kiss her, and was surprised by how desperately she wanted him to. Instead, Cole gently disengaged his wrist from her grasp. Take your time out here. I'll be in the kitchen when you're ready. Alone with the wind and waves, Tara tried to process the complex emotions this enigmatic man evoked in her. In less than 48 hours, Cole Vance had shown her more genuine understanding than people she'd known all her life. There was something both comforting and terrifying in being truly seen after a lifetime of performing to expectations. The sun began to dip toward the horizon, painting the sky in spectacular shades of orange and pink. Tara found herself wishing for her camera, not the latest model phone she'd left behind, but the professional-grade equipment she'd once been passionate about before her father deemed photography an impractical hobby. When she finally returned to the house, she found Cole in the kitchen, sleeves rolled up as he worked on dinner preparation. The domestic scene struck her with unexpected force. This powerful man, who commanded a tech empire and owned priceless art, chopping vegetables with the same focused precision he probably applied to business acquisitions. Can I help? She asked, moving to wash her hands at the sink. You can open the wine. He nodded toward a bottle, breathing on the counter. And tell me if that pasta sauce needs more basil. They worked together in easy synchronicity, as though they'd done this countless times before. Cole moved with economical grace in the kitchen, his actions confident, without being showy. When their hands occasionally brushed, reaching for utensils or ingredients, Tara felt that same electric awareness, but neither acknowledged it directly. By the time they carried their plates to the western terrace, the sky had transformed into a canvas of deep purples and fiery crimsons, reflected on the ocean's surface. They ate by the light of artfully placed lanterns, the conversation flowing as easily as the exceptional wine Cole had selected. You never talk about your family, Tara observed as they finished the meal. Are they still living? A shadow crossed Cole's face. My parents died when I was 7. Car accident. I'm so sorry. Tara's heart ached for the child he had been. Who raised you? The foster system, primarily. His tone remained neutral, but his knuckles whitened around his wine glass. It was educational. Something in his carefully controlled expression told Tara not to press further. Instead, she asked, and was there someone who helped you when you made your choice at 18? Someone who offered sanctuary when you needed it? The question seemed to surprise him. After a moment's consideration, he nodded. One Personan art teacher who recognized something in me worth salvaging. A ghost of a smile touched his lips. He said I had the hands of a creator trapped in the circumstances of destruction. He was right, Tara said softly. I've seen your hands. They're definitely those of a creator. Cole looked at her then, really looked, with an intensity that seemed to peer directly into her soul. The air between them thickened with unspoken possibilities. "It's getting late," he said finally, breaking the spell. "And you've had an overwhelming couple of days." They cleared the dishes together in comfortable silence. At the hallway leading to their respective bedrooms, they paused, suddenly awkward for the first time since their initial meeting. "Thank you," Tara said simply. "Not just for dinner or this incredible place, but for seeing Meth real me, not the heiress or the